Welcome to the Flusion Zone.
When we last left the colony, all hands and some wide-eyed, floral shirt-wearing tourists had been stuffed on board the maiden voyage of the Starliner 2000. The entirety of the Administrator's colony, space agency, and subsequential poorly received Flusion video catalog hung in the ultimate balance. Sonar-bound Flurians were cast headlong into the Flusion atmosphere, only to end up backwards facing and potential victims of the Administrator's greed for crew experience and accumulation of funds. And there was only one person, or Flurian, to blame if all went wrong. Bill. To the relief of the Administrator, colony, and most likely the two viewers who made it to the end of the last volume, the Starliner was capable of staging through launch procedures into an emergency scrub and landing of the oversized death trap, and all hands tourists and funds were avoided of loss at this time. And that is called foreshadowing. Unfazed by the potential incomplete failure and loss of the entirety of the space agency, a few tweaks were made to the Starliner's launch platform, and again, all hands and tourists were crammed on board into the cabins of the flimsy hitchhiker module-based spacecraft. With the strain of pitching the craft into an ideal degree alleviated by the launching struts, the Starliner, heavy with the mass of 30 Flurians, laid a course into the heavens above and out to the orbit of Mother Sonna.
Welcome aboard the Starliner 2000. This luxury craft will have you taking a ride into the far reaches of our Mother Sonna. Explore the rings of Mother Sonna and bask in the beauty of all the oceans of blue. Get away from the hustle and bustle of everyday Flusioning and into a retreat into the warm embrace of Mother Sonna on board the new Starliner 2000 from Space Agency Industries.
Course now set, all crew accounted for, all tourists happily gazing at tubes and inner eyeballs. The Starliner 2000 on its maiden voyage set out on its orbit and out of Flusion's gravitational comfort. The first 3 days saw no loss in rations from the stores of snacks on board, as it seemed the entire crew were too excited to eat, but on the vessel's journey to the periapsis, an entire 20 days of rations were consumed in only 10 days. It started to become painfully obvious to the Administrator that Bill did not take into account the random factor that came pre-post in the snack mod and vaguely recalled the fainting penalties or the days of hunger before death factor. It became the highest priority to return the poorly stocked craft back to Flusion as quickly as possible before the stores of snacks on board the Starliner were completely depleted. The 45-day journey of Ailbro and Hanton became a hunting reminder of how long a craft could linger in Sonna's orbit before finding an encounter with the Flurian home of Flusion. As the last of the snack reserves were vanquished by the rationing crew and tourists of the Starliner, an orbit around Flusion was established with the last bit of fuel still remaining. It was still unknown if the Starliner would be able to transverse the Flusion atmosphere without burning up, so the Administrator wanted to be extra careful in bringing the craft back to Flusion terrain. A series of air braking maneuvers were going to be made in hopes of entering the atmosphere in a much gentler fashion. But during the first air break, at 21 days, into the approximately 33 days of snack rations, the first penalties of hunger struck, and 190,000 of funds were stripped from coffers of the space agency. Day 22, another hunger fine, but this one at 290,000 funds. Not long later, fainting begins. Reputation takes a 29-point hit, and another fine of 290,000 funds erased. The series of air-braking maneuvers came into question, but the bigger fear of losing the entire crew in brute forcing a re-entry was lingering on the administrator, and another round of fainting crew and tourists deplete the agency's funds and reputation further. By the third round of being hit by fines and reputation decreases, the vessel was put on an insured re-entry, and all fingers were crossed that the specialty of Flusion's fast spin would give the Starliner an ease into descent, which turned out way more uneventful than anticipated. On recovery of the vehicle, the agency had lost 116 reputation points, and of the 940,000 beginning funds, nearly 800,500 funds had been restituted from the agency in hunger and fainting fines, also subsequently failing the 4 tourists' contracts, all totaled, leaving the agency with a mere 189,000 funds to continue to pursue the stars with. The inaugural voyage of the famine-stricken Starliner had led to a revolt in tourism for the now defamed space agency.
A quick disclaimer right here. I tried to get the AI to stop putting eyebrows, noses, and ears on the Kerbals. This just intensified it and made it worse.
In a wanting picture of the presumed courtroom case that tried to depict the blame onto one of the tourists, not knowing which one, uh, the AI still generated noses, ears, and eyebrows for the Flurians. At that point, I tried to correct it, but it ended up creating this picture. So I gracefully and graciously thank the AI for all of its efforts, because you want to probably stay on the good side of AI because of the whole future of, AI overlord type of stuff, And
Oh boy, you're talking now,
well, yeah, it's my show.
and your walkie-talkie of a microphone?
All right, shut up now.
With the return of grinding contracts for funds came an upgrade contract for Space Lab 1, expanding the crew facilities. Crack ace pilot Val was put on as captain, and she would guide the new crew module to Flusion's orbiting space station for docking.